That's right.
Sorry. Hey, everybody, we're live. First of all, thank you all very much for joining me to talk about Salsa by the Lake with Isaac Costa Reed. Isaac happens to say hello to my friend here, John Jones III, who is one of the creators of the process that led to the Oakland Police Commission as we have it today, and also one of the architects of the Oakland Coalition for police accountability. I just screwed that up. It's basically CPA though, but I got the CPA right and the name not exactly right. But my endeavor is to provide this platform for Mr. Jones and my friend to help us clear up the results of a bomb that was dropped the other day when Cat Brooks came on and basically said, "Hey, look, the Coalition for Police Accountability didn't stand behind Giselyn Harris, who is now former Oakland Police Commissioner." And I said, "Are you talking about Rashida Grenache?" I put that out there because she's a friend of mine. She's, as well as John. And so I had to say, well, who do you mean? And she basically said she was leading the charge. And I went, "Ack!" So John stepped up and said, "You know what? I want to chime on this and clean up this crap." So here we are. And it is my pleasure to present my friend, John Jones III. John, welcome. What's going on, man?
Thank you, Zenny. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me on, and just keep up the good work you're doing, seriously, because it's much needed.
Thank you.
With that being said, honestly, there's been lots of chatter going on about lots of different things. And what is frustrating to me is, first and foremost, in this current climate of, once again, another Black person, and specifically in this case of George Floyd, another Black man murdered by the police. And I don't understand why the attention and the conversation is among community groups. Like, it's the police doing the killing. And it's so important for folks to get that. Like, we have to stay focused. People have different tactics and strategies on what that means for them. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, I mean, for me, as someone born and raised in East Oakland, someone who has personally experienced police brutality, including 2 of my childhood friends murdered, someone as a single father of an 18-year-old and a 5-year-old here in the city of Oakland, I want to make sure what I experience don't happen to them, anybody else's kids, or anybody else for that matter. So thank you for this. And I think it's important to set some things straight. I want to start with the Coalition for Police Accountability. For some strange reason, there's conversation going around saying there's no Black people in the coalition. It's white-led. It's just white people. Stop it. It's not. We have not just Black people, but Black people from Oakland, born and raised in Oakland. We have people who experience these issues. So I don't even understand. Like, for me, everything I do, I always believe in centering those who are directly impacted. And anyone who has experienced something personally, I would never dare to assert the privilege to tell you how you should fight or show up. You have skin in the game, right? So I want to clear that piece up. The Coalition of Police Accountability is not white-led, neither is it all white. I'm gonna go a step further. When people talk about Black people in Oakland, let me be clear. Everyone in my circle, Zenny, the people I live with, the people I socialize with, all this is in East Oakland. 98% of people in Oakland are not attached to any movement, community-based organization, or any of that. I want to be clear on that. In fact, when I first started 7 years ago, I didn't even know these organizations existed. I'll go a step further. The only nonprofit who knocked on my door was the Jehovah's Witnesses. Sorry. Let's just keep it 100.
Yeah,
so
right.
When people say things like community, for example, it's so overinflated. I would never dare. I'm from Oakland. If you have a checklist, everything you can mark off, formerly incarcerated, everything I fought for, and not by myself, but with others, I have personally experienced. But I would never dare to assert the claim or privilege like I'm the leader and people have to follow me. There's been a lot of that going on. Different groups going out, contacting us saying we got to follow somebody else, or we're not authentic, or we don't represent Black people. Stop that. The work is too voluminous for any one group or organization. In fact, I want more people involved. In fact, I want so many people involved to where I can take a day off and spend some time with my own kids. That's the first piece. The second piece, really as it relates to Ginale Harris. Now, keep in mind, by context, I'm a member of the coalition who pushed for the passage of Measure LL. I, in the beginning, initially had my reservations about it, and I was critical of it. I had a
Measure LL is, by the way, please.
Yes, Measure LL passed in 2016 by 83% of the Oakland voters. Among many things, it created what we have now, a civilian police commission. Now, for anyone who's ever worked on policy, you know two things to be true. First of all, there is no such thing as a perfect policy. Quite frankly, because we're not perfect people. I want to think about the 13th Amendment. A lot of people think that it freed the slaves. No, it didn't. It created a clause to where if you are incarcerated, you're considered legally chattel property. I've been to prison. I'm gonna tell you right now, Zenny, when you go to prison, the sheriff of that county, they have a form that you have to sign, and it declares you property of the state. That's not a perfect policy. But here's a beautiful thing about democracy. There's always an opportunity to go back and make it stronger. And that's what happened. The coalition led that effort to add in enabling a measure to make Measures LL more stronger. So as someone that was an inaugural member of a selection panel, this is key because a lot of confusion starting here. So under LL, there is a police commission. When it originally passed, it provided this mechanism. There are 7 full-time police commissioners and 2 alternates. The selection panel selects 4 of the police commissioners and 1 of the alternates. The mayor gets to select the other 3 and the remaining alternate. After the selection panel made their decision, it is subject to the approval of the full city council. There are 9 members of the selection panel. Each one is appointed by a council member and the mayor. I was an inaugural member. I was appointed by the at-large council member, Rebecca Kaplan. And shout out to Council Member Kaplan for having enough faith and trust to allow someone like me, formerly incarcerated, to be part of the process to end what I experienced in my life. Ginale Harris was an inaugural member of the police commission. We appointed her. So under the measure, the first term limits, they were staggered, 2, 3, and 4. Then after that, each person would have a cassette time. You only can serve 2 terms. So Ginale Harris' term was up. It is the power, the sole purview of the selection panel to determine whether or not they wanted to reappoint her. This is where the confusion starts and breaks down. No one, the coalition does not have anything to do with Ginale Harris not being reappointed. In fact, I want to go further. We have wrote a letter in support of her. We were upset. We were abhorred that the city administrator would actually spend taxpayer dollars to single out someone who was not paid to deal with these issues. I'm someone, I've had many conversations with Ginale, and I had one with her recently because she was sharing on Twitter that she felt like the coalition was out to get her. I am a member of that coalition. Anybody who know anything about me or the work that I do know that I've never been a follower. I'm from East Oakland. That's not in our nature, right? I would never just blindly follow somebody who just do whatever they want and then tell me. I've never been a yes person. That's why I have a criminal record, right? Just keeping it real, right? That's East Oakland in me, right? We're born rebels. I like what Dave Chappelle said. I'm a genetic dissenter.
Whoa. That is the line of the freaking year. Somebody needs to make a song out of that.
Right? Genetic dissenters in our bloodlines.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So we was in full support of Ginale Harris. You know, there was no one in our group who lobbied for that. And I think it's important, Zenny, to make a distinction, because I do know that there were members who were specifically named. We must separate individuals from the coalition. I'm not here to defend anybody. They can defend themselves. But when the word Coalition for Police Accountability, when we're critiqued, that means I'm being critiqued. And the work I do, everyone knows. It's not, I don't do this in a closet or in a vacuum. So I wanted folks to understand that there was a clear process. The selection panel made the decision to not reappoint Ginale Harris, not the coalition. We don't have that power. We don't have that influence. I wish we did. Then we would really get, we would end police brutality if we had that kind of power.
Mm-hmm. I was going to play where Kat got into that so we could, for context, if I may, because I was calling that up, and that's what I was doing right now. I believe I found it. Let me share the screen here so that people can, have some idea of, more concretely how all this started. This is Miss Brooks from our talk yesterday. Let me play it so I make sure I've got the turn this up, and She
There's a little bit of a delay here, so keep talking. Go ahead. It's not you. It's the.
Oh, no, I'm done.
It's whatever is going on between the internet and all that. That happens on occasion. It also happens with Zoom, because that's what I was going to say. But now that we have an even adjustment, what happened on the police commission that caused to be ousted? And it caught me by surprise when I saw that. I thought, are you going to be kidding me? And I thought I was on top of things. I realized I wasn't. So I'm just candidly telling you, it caught me by surprise. Go.
It is such a disgrace what that selection panel did to Ginale Harris. And I've been biting my tongue for quite some time, which, is something that I don't often do. But I don't know if you saw, APTP released a statement in support of Ginale, where we very openly criticized Coalition for Police Accountability. CPA is a primarily white-led organization, and they are the organization they championed and they won the police commission. And actually, the fact that the police commission is as weak as it is because they refuse to fight for stronger elements of that commission that we really pushed them to fight for. And since that, it's become their commission, right? So the steering committee has their members on it. The administration takes their lead, and anybody who dares to buck them is met with hostility and obstinance. Ginale had the audacity to speak truth to power. Ginale had the audacity to not, be a sheep. Ginale had the audacity to bring her lived experience as a Black woman in East Oakland and her own experience with police to that police commission, and to demand things forcefully and unapologetically. And Ginale paid for it by she didn't even make it to the second round, even though she's been the vice chair for 2 years. Those are unpaid positions. Ginale put in at least 30 hours a week as a volunteer and being our voice. And so it is very disheartening that the one person on that commission that comes from the most impacted communities, the one person on the commission who has deeply lived experience with police violence is the one that they chose to kick off. It's very disheartening. And further, I just look at alienates community members. Like APTP, we've been trying to engage more and bring people to the commission and utilize it for what it's supposed to be utilized for. And this is just one more thing where I'm like, I didn't want to engage. But yeah, it's outrageous.
So where was Rashida in all this? I've had her on the show a couple of times, and now I'm thinking, what the heck did she do?
She led the charge.
See, that was my fault, John. So that's why.
Excuse me?
She led the charge. Her and the rest of them led the charge to get rid of Ginale. And they had, Ginale did, she would butt heads with Rashida on stuff. And Ginale was in a position, or Ginale would use her position and say, listen, this is a commission for the people. And she didn't capitulate to CPA's feeling like the commission belonged to them. And I get it. Like, I do get it. When you fight that hard for something, I feel a little ownership of a defund, the defund movement in Oakland, for sure. But it's not mine. It belongs to the people. And more importantly, it's supposed to belong to the people who are most impacted and who we're supposedly trying to support and help, right? And I just feel like she was too honest, and she didn't capitulate enough, and they wanted somebody who's going to toe a different line.
So there it is. Let me.
And I hope I'm saying this as respectfully as possible. Like, there's nothing personal with me and Rashida.
No. I'm just blown away. That's all.
I'll leave it right there because I want to give John a chance to, fill us in on what happened here. So there it is, John. And again, it was just kind of like opening. It was like turning on a faucet, and the water just went whoop. So there's some hurt there. There's something going on. What's going on?
Let me say this. First, I want to start here. My style, Zenny, and anyone who knows me, I spend little to no time arguing with anybody, especially Black people. I don't do it publicly. I don't spend no time privately. I'm too busy trying to improve the community that I'm born and raised in, and it's that simple. Seeing this, like I say, it's so... I can't even put it into words because I'm not understanding why, once again, the focus should be keeping OPD accountable. It should not be focused on infighting among community groups. for some strange reason, the coalition is being singled out as if we are advocating for the removal of anybody. And let me be clear, as someone that's formerly incarcerated, that the work I do is predicated on that. I would never be part of a process that would invisibilize somebody. You know, I was in full support of Ginale Harris. In fact, during the selection panel meetings, because I've been busy with this COVID response, and I want folks to understand this. We got a lot of issues in Oakland. It ain't just the police. When my 18-year-old leaves a house, the first thing I'm thinking about, trust me, is not the police. The murder rate is through the roof. COVID is through the roof. So let me be clear when we start talking about some community things. My youngest son is in OUSD. I've been sharing those situations. So when we talk about community, let's talk about everything that's happened in our community and not cherry pick. But with that being said, the coalition has not adopted a position to advocate for the approval or removal of anybody on the police commission. Number two, that is not our police commission. It belongs to the public. The truth is, those meetings have been poorly attended. And I think some of the confusion lies in the fact that the only people who consistently have attended and worked hard to support them have been members of the coalition. So yes, as residents, they have the right to speak during public comment. So if people think that is an attempt of trying to control the commission, I don't know what to say outside. That's how democracy works. We've been invested in trying to bring in folks. You know, we've had town halls out in the community. We worked with All of Us to None, in which I am also a member. That's a formerly incarcerated group where we had people not only share their experiences with police violence, but also that led to one of the policies that passed that governed the use of, well, not the use, but when police pull people over, and that's are you on probation or parole. So at the end of the day, I think people should understand this. We should never adopt this attitude of like someone owns the work. Like who applies for a patent for systemic injustice? Because that's what groups have been reaching out to us to say. If you don't follow this group, you ain't real. You don't represent Black people. And let me say something real quick. And this is near and dear to my heart. So like I say, I don't have time to criticize nobody Black. And I'm gonna say this on the records. I said it before because someone made a critique about Kat in my name. I have no desire to argue with Kat or disrespect her.
Right. I
have love and respect for Kat. I am a Black man raised by a single Black mother from a family of single Black women. That's always been my position, and it will always remain so. Even if I disagree with what's being said or the tactics, like I said, I'm fighting just like everybody else to end it, to make sure it don't happen to my son. But I want to make something very clear on this point, and I want everybody to understand this, Zenny. And I'm going to give you some names. I want to ask you, what do these names have in common? Rodney King, Oscar Grant, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, George Floyd. Why is it when Black men are being killed by the police, our voices are being silent? Why is it when they talk about Black Lives Matter, right? And I'm saying this in a general frame, I'm not talking about the organization. How come it seem like my life or the life of my kids only matter when we're dead, and even then when it's by the police? Where is there room for us to speak? Because we're the ones who experienced that. I even shared when I was on the selection panel, Zenny, the first thing I fought for in terms of who can serve on the commission is to make sure that they do not conduct criminal background checks. The president of the Oakland Police Officer Association wrote an op-ed, and this is what he said: the idea of convicts serving on that commission is utterly distasteful.
I read that. Yeah.
Right? As a result, there was increased police presence on my block. Mind you, I am someone who has not only experienced police brutality, I've experienced police planting drugs on me. And remember, we talked about this when Manheimer came in, right? The interim police chief. And I had a chance to talk to her about my experiences in San Francisco when they planted drugs on me. The point is this: there's too many people offering chatter on who they think should be the leader. And if that's your mindset, then you're not doing anything to help the people. I don't care who's the leader. It's not why I do it. Because my position is I organize myself out of a job. I'm not looking to do this forever because I don't want to have to live in that with that tension as a Black man and a single father of Black kids every night.
I just want to offer this observation, if I may, and without, I don't want to be perceived as cutting you off at all. Can I offer an observation? Okay, I think from my position and looking at what the horror and the tragedy of George Floyd that's been rebroadcast to us in more detail because of this other angle video, what has happened, as I see it, is there have been an increased number of black to black criticisms in general. And I think a lot of people said the conversations need to happen, but sometimes we hear that. It seems like some people think the conversation is just white to white, right? But what I'm seeing played out, and I think this is here, and I'm not saying I'm still forming this idea and thought, and I want to share with you and have you respond. But I think what's happening, and I know I can say for myself that I look at, like, for example, the website for the Coalition Police Accountability, look at president and all they're involved, not friends of mine, but they're also white. And a conversation I've had a lot of my friends who are white of late is, hey, you know what? And this even goes with the mayor. I've known her for 32 years, but there are things that she has done that have been of an institutional level that I've had problems with over the years. And what happens is that these little things, John, I'm sure you'll agree with what I'm about to say, they kind of they're little micro things, microaggressions, as some people call them, and they stack. And then it takes that one little thing to go boom. And the one little thing was not a little thing. It was George Floyd communicated by the modern media system of social media, right? And now we're all looking around and we're saying, oh, wait a minute. Okay, they're in charge. Are they really for us? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's my theory that that's what's going on. Okay. Your thoughts?
Let me just give you the hardcore truth from the ground.
Yeah.
The truth is there's not a single organization or coalition that represent the entirety of Oakland. When people talk about leaders and followers, let me be clear. Like I said, the people who I socialize with, they're not on social media. So people don't hear their voices, right? Mm-hmm. So let's be clear on that. When I first started this, Zenny, I want to be clear, coming from the streets of East Oakland, do you know how people view community work? We view this as square work. We don't see ourselves in it because most of the people in it are not us. They don't look like us, walk like us, talk like us. It's not that same sense of shared experience. So in a lot of words, the work I do, Zenny, I serve as a bridge because I'm trusted and respected because people knew me my whole life. So even when I got involved, it took some time because, you know, we're critical in East Oakland. We want to see, is John really about that life, or that's just something he's talking about doing, right? But as they've seen the work, they show their respect, right? So I want to be clear on that. So when we're talking about if somebody is all white, I'm gonna tell you right now, name a single organization that's all black. Name an organization that's half black, 1/3 black, 1/5 black. I promise you, because one of the things I also believe is looking for my replacement. That's one of the reasons why I stepped down from the selection panel, Zenny. This isn't about me, right? There are so many qualified, intelligent people here in Oakland. And one of the things I always want to do is trying to fight and find ways for our people to be involved, to be engaged. So this whole process, to me, is a problematic because the focus isn't on them. I'm gonna give another example. I'm always the one community members come to when something happened, when people want to shut down the freeway. And people come to me and say, why are people shutting down the freeway for this? But when little Pookie killed little Tay-Tay, nobody says anything. Right. I'm not even part of those decisions. And like I say, I spend very little time criticizing, let alone paying attention to what anybody else does. But these realities, these truths need to be shared and told. People have to understand not only how this process works. The selection panel is responsible for appointing someone, and council is the one that approves it. It's not the coalition. It's not anybody else. If people want to be involved, trust me, the door is always open for that. Because as a coalition, we never adopted to have a serial stance toward anybody because we focus on the same thing that a lot of people are. But it's breaking down for reasons to me that's just bizarre. It takes the focus away off of, first of all, why a lot of people protested. That's because of state-sanctioned violence. Let's end that. When we end that, Zenny, then I'm more than happy for folks to have a conversation over who was right and what could have been done better. Until we get to a place where all of us are safe, we shouldn't be having time determining who's black, who's white, and who's running things. That don't make sense to me.
Is it okay? For the record, I invited Rashida to come on as well. She said she didn't want to add oxygen to it, but my thought in reading what she wrote was that it seems like Kat didn't just come out of that because she was having a bad day. Actually, so she was having a great day before we got started. It seems like there's a problem that somebody needs to jump in and solve. Who's going to do that?
I would say this, like I said, I'm not here to defend anyone. The issues, if it's interpersonal, that's for them to deal with. I'm here to speak, first of all, on behalf of the coalition as a coalition member. And that's what I want to stress. The first thing I want to stress, Zinni, I want people to understand that. If someone has a problem with an individual member, follow up with them. Please don't conflate that interpersonal situation with the entire group of us. Because like I said, that includes me. And to me, that's disrespectful because my work speaks for itself. Like I say, I don't spend time arguing with people. For what? If I'm going to advocate or lobby anybody, it's going to be a decision maker who has the power to make a difference, not somebody else in the community who, chances are, many of us are not paid to do this work. Like, that part is ridiculous. But the second thing, which is so true, and it's kind of twofold, Zinni, I think it's important because the other reason why I appreciate this and want to come on, because I've noticed there's a tendency for people to not understand systems of governance in Oakland. I mean, you and I talked about that. There's people that get blamed for things and people don't even understand their roles and duties. That is our job, educate ourselves how systems work. That's why I want to make it be clear. The selection panel, those 9 people get to decide who they feel is the most appropriate person for the police commission, and then council approves that. Not the coalition, not anybody else in the community. If folks want to support somebody, call in because they're doing it virtually. If you feel someone is a problem, also call in. That is your right and duty as a resident. But let's be clear, that is not the Coalition for Police Accountability. We don't have that power. We're not appointed to do so. And the last thing is this, because it all relates. When we're talking about community, I want folks to be very clear. Oakland is not monolithic. Black people are not monolithic. A majority of people I speak to in Oakland, especially Black elders, are in favor of the police. I call myself a community advocate. You know what that means to me, Zinni? That means John Jones III don't spend a lot of time advocating his personal opinions. When I'm on social media, if it's my personal opinion, I state so. More often than not, people contact me because that don't exist. There's not a lot of real engagement going on out here in the streets. And I'm gonna tell you, because I'm in these streets, right? I know what people are saying. So my job is to faithfully represent their interests. Now keep in mind, I've never ever lobbied for more police. What I do is when I have these conversations, I talk them through what does alternatives look like. So it's not just academic. And most importantly, Zinni, on this last note, one thing that people in the streets respect, they always say, what have you done lately? It's one thing for me to talk about this. Like, for example, when we started talking about the Fair Chance Housing Campaign and the barriers I was experiencing accessing housing due to a criminal record. Our coalition got that passed. And guess what? I am sitting in a newly built home in East Oakland as a result of that ordinance. I'm always about personal agency, Zinni. That's the key. I would never say, follow me. I would never say, I have all the answers. I'm your savior. You know what I do? I lead by example. I say, this is what I did. Focus on what we can do. It's not about the I, it's the we.
Help me with this, because one thing that Kat and I talked about extensively is I reached out to, for example, the Oakland City Auditor's Office, which wrote a critique, and which I took issue with because on page 51, to point out a number of examples, it gave an account essentially of then Oakland Police Chief Ann Kirkpatrick, not, for want of a better term, approving of hard questioning. And it was one of those statements, and I said to Dina, who's from the auditor's office, my friend, and I said, you know what? And I didn't say this publicly, it's something I'm relating a conversation she had to a degree. I want it out of fairness to her, because she's a fantastic person. But I said, it seems to me that it's like the police chief saying, I don't like these Black folks questioning me. And my question is, how do you make sure that you don't have other situations where another Miss Harris feels like she's singled out, picked on, investigated for no reason whatsoever, good reason, other than being intimidated by the very body that she's been selected to manage, right? That's a hard go. And that's when and now this is me speaking for me, I think that for what we're dealing with right now, it's institutional racism, because even if a person is white, that person doesn't entirely understand what you and I have to go through. And yet, if you put them in charge and they don't ask a question, like if you say to a person, hey, that's racist, what a white person should say to you is, how can I do better? Instead, what I get a lot of is, I'm not racist. Wait a minute, listen, right? There's not a lot of listening going on. There's a lot of defensive, like, okay. And therein lay the problem that gets us to a lot of situations, I think, in my personal view of this, like this one, tell me if I'm off base. But I think when people respect others' positions, they realize, hey, let's break it down as my last name is Jewish, for example, okay? But I don't pretend to know what somebody else who's white and Jewish goes through, even though I get tons of letters from Hillel because they reach out to me because my last name is Jewish and I have an unusual background, right? But if you don't ask questions, you don't know. And what I see a lot of white folks out there saying, I'm not racist, but they're not asking the question, how can I get better? And yet, if you look at the Coalition of Police Accountability and you see these lists of people who are my friends, but some of them don't ask the question, how can I get better, right? And I think what you're hearing is kind of the smoke exhaust result of an engine that needs to be tuned up in relationships, right? Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, cool, but that's what I feel,
No, there's some things you said that there's two things that resonated with me. Let's just start with white supremacy, which we know is alive and well in Oakland. And what happened to Ginale Harris, you and I both know was not a singular isolated event. You and I also talked about what happened with Mayor Keisha, right? What happened with Michelle Byrd. Like, there's a long history of this, right? And that for me really just underscores the importance, the need of people in the community to pull together. When I say pull together, we don't have to be best friends. I don't have the time and energy to argue with community groups when I'm seeing these things play out day by day, right? That's once again where I'm saying the focus should be. And even I haven't had a chance to speak with the city auditor about her report. I do plan to reach out. All these things, and let's be clear. The police commission, there was a legitimate and serious attempt to undermine it by the city of Oakland. Let's just call it for what it is. That we're aware of. I also want to remind the viewers, Zinni, that the coalition called for the firing of then Chief Kirkpatrick a year before it happened. Let's be clear on that. That's on the record. Now, the second point. Now, this is where it's going to get real. When we're talking about white people, whether it's white privilege, implicit bias, whatever folks want to give it a name, Zinni, I'm on record. I'm one of the first people to talk about when I seen the protest and seen white people holding up signs saying I can't breathe. I was the one calling that white privilege out. I did that. My followers, my base is not white people. If anybody, all the white people you talking about in the coalition, if they had an issue with that, what you think would have happened? John's a problem. No one said anything. You understand? Because I speak my truth as I see it. But the reality is, Zinni, white people in general are doing a lot of talking. People have to stop saying that's just a coalition. I pay attention to these city council meetings, everyone calling in talking about defund the police, let's name it. They're white people. That's who's doing that. So if people want to do that, it's plenty to spread around. Let's just be real on some things. And that's something once again, Zinni, I personally struggle with. That's why I say there's been concerted efforts to expand. There's different reasons why they don't take place. But part of it is, to what you're saying is, people on the outside, right, who are not connected. Like I say, nonprofits in Oakland, they don't realize this, at best constitute only 2% of the total population. A lot of these folks, you might be famous in your circles. Don't nobody know these people or they name these organizations. Let's just be real. I'm going to call it like I said, because it's the truth. We can't get people involved, Zinni, if people are devolving to a place of just attacking each other. People are hungry for change. Like I said, they don't show every time the police kill somebody on TV, but we know. And we're dealing with everything else that we see. So it makes my work harder with trying to build bridges and relationships in the community to try to get them to trust that they have a role if they're just seeing all this backfighting. That just don't make any sense. That's why I stay away from it, because it's counterproductive to your point. And at the end of the day, it's going to, like I say, people don't have to be best friends. You don't have to agree. I think the only thing that we should agree to is two things. First of all, create space to agree to disagree. Number two, agree to not undermine one another. Let's just stay focused on what the target is. The target and the goal is ending state-sanctioned violence. Anything that's not focused on that, it's counterproductive. And I don't have time for it. But like I said, I just wanted to come on here because as a member, you know, it's one thing if folks have an issue with Rashida, have that conversation. With any other member, it's when, if you say coalition, come on, you can't lump everybody together. To me, that's the same thing as saying if you get into a problem with one black person, all of a sudden all black people are a certain way. So I just want to clear that piece up as a coalition member. And after that, I just want to encourage people, look, man, we got too much to fight for. Because right now, in this critical moment, my concern is there's a short window. Like I said, Zenny, I'm in on this note. I am 46 years old. I've seen a lot. I was 12 years old when I was slammed against the wall by OPD. 12 years old when they made us stand in the middle of the street and pull our pants down and spread our butt cheeks. When they should put us in the back of their police cars and ride through other neighborhoods to make it look like we telling. When they should take us to the Giant Burgers on 81st and beat us in the back of their paddy wagon. This has been going on for a long time. It didn't just start. That's what I carry with me. Someone that's been in bed on more than 3 occasions to wake up to the sight of police officers with their servers' guns pointed at the sleeping bodies of me, my partner, and my kid. So for me, this isn't a game. Like I say, I don't care who wants credit. That's not why I'm doing it. I do it because I don't want my kids to experience it. So this moment right now, we need to figure out a way to stay focused. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Zenny, that's why there are moments. It's not a movement because people get involved, they get agitated, and then all of a sudden that energy dissipates. They get distracted or it devolves to infighting. One last thing I want to say. This is not unique to Oakland. I have relationships with people all across this country. The same dynamic is true. It plays out everywhere, and people are tired of that. Part of this is, and this is something people don't want to talk about, there's been a long division, even here in Oakland, when people say things like who's from Oakland and who's not. I don't spend a lot of time talking about it, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's real. Just because I don't talk about it don't mean it ain't real, you know? And it looks different because we're like, it's like if someone comes in and say, I'm the expert of what you're dealing with. It's like, no, would you think I'm stupid? You think I don't know that? You follow me? And if we don't feel a safe space for people to speak, that's why I want to end up on this point about black men. At a time where there's plenty of black women saying the leadership of black women. I'm on record supporting black women. For the record, in this election year right here in Oakland, I personally endorse both Barbara Parker and Treva Reed. I don't have an issue with supporting black women. Like I said, I supported Ginale. I called in and voiced my support.
By the way, so do I. Go ahead.
Right. But I also wanted to be clear too. If we're talking about that, let us be clear on what the issues are, because black men are being killed. We're disproportionately being killed. If you look in Oakland, Zenny, every Democrat, every issue across the board, black men are at the bottom. Homelessness, unemployment, homicide, incarceration, police brutality. It's people that look like you and I.
Media ownership,
right? So I just want to be clear on this. I don't get into the whole Prussian Olympics. Like I say, I'm fighting for our people. I don't divide and separate, but I did want to make that clear. If we as a people is going to get to a place of endiness, and we owe this to our elders and our ancestors who sacrificed so much for us to even get to a place where we can speak some of the things we speak without fear of being lynched. Well, some of us, because some of us still got to deal with that.
Here's something with you as a friend. I haven't had a chance to, but I've said it before. I said it to the late Jeff Adachi, and then to the mayor more recently. But you grow up, you go to Cal, and you think, okay, subconsciously as a black person who goes in that, you think what you went through isn't going to happen to me. And then, okay. For example, I was trying to bring Super Bowl to Oakland, went out, make a long story very, very short, got drunk celebrating. I thought I had an agreement with Mayor Willie Brown over, hotels and all that stuff. Woke up, I was headed the wrong way up the freeway ramp next to what was the North County Jail now, right? Crashed my car to avoid a car. Wound up at the North County Jail after being in a hospital because I had too much to drink. And the guy says, "Oh, you're Super Bowl. We're going to get you out of here." I was out in like 45 minutes. Okay. So I'm thinking, oh, yeah. And then I'm coming back from the Balboa Cafe. A guy is tailgating me at 80 miles per hour, he's pushing me down. I'm thinking, I'm speeding. I got to stop this. There's a highway patrol officer in the middle of the eastbound lane. I go in front of the officer. I wave at the officer, say, "Oh, get this guy!" Right? Go and get this guy. Okay. I'm get the guy. And the guy goes by me in 80. The chip doesn't even go for him. Stays behind me close. When we get off the bridge, I start doing their lights. And to tell the story that I told again and again and again, I'm thinking he's gonna he says, we're just going to let you go. And I'm thinking, okay, fine. And he has me up there and he handcuffs me. I'm thinking he's going to, take me in, and tears start rolling down my eyes. He says, I'm going to do that. He took my whole body in the middle of lifting my body. Myself left my body because I had determined within a split second that I was going to watch this because there was nothing else I could do from outside of my body. Okay. And he body slammed me on his patrol car. And I'm saying this because when I get that guy's name, I'm going to broadcast it all over the fucking place. Because we went to court twice. Bill Dubois, who is Hans Rieser's attorney, is a good friend of mine, great attorney. And he never showed up. Okay. And so my point is, 2005, about a year before that happened, the CHP were the focus of an investigation where they were doing this to black and brown men all the time. But it's so bad that if you watch Law and Order, you'll see them, or Blue Bloods, they'll put their hands on a black person like that, and no one questions it. It's part of popular culture to see that it's okay for a police officer to put his hands on a black man who hasn't done anything. I was saying this to my mom a few weeks. I said, this is ridiculous. I mean, and we have to get this out of our culture where, you see videos of police officers coming up to black men and just hanging them, arresting them, and they didn't do anything. And they got the wrong guy. But they think it's okay to do that without saying, hey, and I'm so-and-so, we're trying to check and see if we're trying to check. They don't check anymore. They just grab you. That ought to be against the national law. There ought to be an initiative in California alone to stop that. And the only issue I ever had with Black Lives Matter is, hey, look, it's great to protest, but you have a number of other people, like, for example, who've written laws. And I would say candidly, the LGBTQ community has been excellent at writing laws to get change. Black Lives Matter needs to start writing laws and getting them passed, like initiatives. Otherwise, we're going to keep testing. But this stuff's got to stop, man.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say on this note, Zenny, on that note, stand true to my form. I am not in a position to offer any critique or criticism of Black Lives Matter. I say these things for a reason, because also the bread and butter of the work I do, Zenny, is really partnering and networking and working with everybody. Like I say, people do what they do. That's not my focus. My focus is the people who are being harmed and how can we end it. So I'm hearing what you're saying. I want to be clear, but I also want to be more clear that that's not why I'm here.
Right. I'm above what Black Lives Matter is doing. That's not the point. All I'm saying is we can get there faster by changing. You change the system, you change laws, right? You get some smart people who know the books, who know the law better than somebody else, and then you start really having a court rumble, and that's where change happens. That's all I'm saying. And we're saying the same. That's what I'm getting at. We're all saying the same thing, but we need to have more talks like this rather than giving Mark Zuckerberg $1 billion. No, hey, give that money to me.
Right. Well, I always say the revolution will not be funded.
That's correct. It won't. But maybe it should be, and maybe we need to change our way as folk, so that we can fund it, so that we can drive the proper levers to make change happen faster. Because that's. When I heard her saying that, it was like when Kat saying that, I was like, whoa. And my thought was, okay, we got to fix some problems here. I am not the person to do that. You're much better qualified at it than I am, frankly, I think. Okay. So,
I would say this too. Like I say, I speaking through my voice as a member of the coalition, there are other powerful Black people, specifically powerful Black women in the coalition. They've already done a wonderful job. I'm not just speaking for themselves, but making things happen. So at the end of the day, I think that door is always open. And people have a choice. I want to be clear. Like I say, this isn't about coming over and have sleepovers. Let's just get this done, whether we're working together, whether we're working apart. Let's just make sure we're just focused on what's important. That's the thing in this moment, Zenny, just what you just shared, what you experienced. I'm tired of this happening over and over again. And then what happens? We forget. I'm tired of that, right? Let's just stay focused. And that's why I say I don't offer critiques of people, because to me, I just me. There's space for other people to do it. They do it all the time. That's them. I just say for me, at the end of the day, and I'm gonna say this last thing. I think it's so important because we're talking about Black people. 1980, you know this. We were 47% Black. Yep. We're below 23% and we're declining. By the decade. by the week, by the month. If we don't also figure that piece out, by 2030, it won't be no black people here for the police to harm. And that's probably then when you start seeing those budgets disappear. So for me, it's not an either or, it's a both and. That's why I have to look up this word somebody called me. He said ubiquitous. I'm like, what does that mean? You know, in the hood, we get suspect, you start using these $4 words, right? So it's all over the place, working on all these a multitude of issues. And that's the key thing. I do that, Zenny, because it's needed. It's like triage. How do we stop the bleeding? It's room to do all these things and more. And I want more people to do it because, like I say, for me, I don't have a messianic complex. I would never sit here and say because I'm born and raised here and I have this experience that I get to call the shots. That's not even what I want. Like I said, at the end of the day, Zenny, I only got involved because I was experiencing barriers. I didn't go to school for this. I don't have a college degree. I didn't just sign up. I had no choice. And at the end of the day, like I said, I'm looking to organize myself out of a job because I got some things I want to do and stay posted. I keep you in tune as these things develop.
Folks, John, I gotta have you back. Stick around the backstage so we can do some planning. Folks, God bless everybody who's sticking around. Boy Lee, thanks for your comments. We'll be back later. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Bookmark Oakland News Now, Oakland News Online, Oakland's only blog aggregator. And check out Zenny62media.com. We'll see you. Don't go anywhere, John. We're in the broadcast, but John, stick around in the backstage. Thank you, everybody.